Hello, this is Mr. Gibbs, and here is the lesson for Thursday in case you missed it. All right, on Google Classroom, I have posted the do now for May 10th. So you'll start with the do now, and it has a lot to do with a reading that we did last Friday. Reading 3.3, you read about an inherited blood disorder, sickle cell anemia. By analyzing Sam's pedigree going back 2 generations, you can see how two parents can pass a trait or variation without having it themselves. So, looking at the pedigree, we have Sam is right here, and here's mom and dad, and then here's a brother and a sister. No one in his immediate family has sickle cell disease. Only Sam has it. But when we look at his extended family, we see two aunts on his father's side and an uncle on his mother's side have sickle cell disease. A grandmother on his father's side has it, and a grandfather on his mother's side has it. So, does Sam's story give you any ideas for how two PTC taster parents might have a child who is a non taster? Go ahead and explain. Here's some of the responses that I've gotten. Sam's family does not have cell disease. Yes. Yes, but because it shows how maybe it came from further back in the family, it does tell that you can get genes from not only your parents, but your grandparents too. Because Sam got the sickle cell disease from his grandparents, just like two PTC taster parents might have a non taster from his grandparents. Basically, the idea we're trying to get here is that the sickle cell genes are being passed through Sam's parents, even though they are not displaying the trait or having the sickle cell disease. So that is something that we have to take into account now that we've seen that in this pedigree. What I'm going to do for today's agenda, we do the do now. Then we're going to take a look at plant selfies, and we're going to put plant selfies in a group sheet or a group slideshow. So if you go back to group or go back to our classroom, you'll see post your plant selfie to the appropriate group slideshow. I will tell you in class whether you were part of group A, group B, or group C. But you should remember marking on your petri dish whether you were group A, B, or C. And what you're going to do is you're going to open up whatever group you were in, and then you are going to post selfies here. If you were in section 8.1, 2, 8.3, and so on. So you are going to post your selfies here, and this will become our group data. And then we will use this for our data for the plants. Next, we're going to do slide notes, which is this slideshow right here. So first of all, we're going to take care of those plant selfies. Then we're going to start lesson 4. Do traits show patterns over multiple generations? What we will do, we will use data as evidence to develop claims for patterns in heredity data. We will analyze inheritance data to compare patterns between plant and human data. So let's get started. All right, let's look at some human data. We have pedigree sets A1 and A2, which we looked at in lesson 3. And this is for PTC tasting. The shaded areas are PTC tasters, and then all other ones, non-shaded, are non-PTC tasters. When we gathered our group data, we came up with a certain number, and then we combined that with other people in the class to get our combined data for PTC tasting. So here you see we have mom and dad are both PTC tasters. 13 of their children had also were PTC tasters, and 2 of them were not. When mom and dad are non-PTC tasters, 0 children were PTC tasters and 7 were not. When we got to mixed, dad is a taster and mom is non. 4 tasters and 4 non-tasters for children. Dad is a non-taster and mom is. 5 were tasters and 5 children were not tasters. All right, then we looked at tongue rolling as a trait, and we had sets B1 and B2. And when we combined our data for that, we had mom and dad are tongue rollers. Well, 10 of those were tongue rollers and 2 were not. Mom and dad are non-tongue rollers. 0 were tongue rollers and 7 were not. And then dad is a tongue roller, mom is not. 4 and 4, dad is a non-tongue roller, mom is. 8 and 5. So if you notice there, our data kind of gives us a pattern where mom and dad are both PTC tasters or tongue rollers. A majority are most likely going to be also tongue rollers or PTC tasters. Where mom and dad are non-tongue rollers or non-PTC tasters, a majority of the children are also not going to be. So you see there's a predictable pattern here. And then when we get to the mixed, it's usually 50-50, except in this case right here, we have a little more leaning towards the tongue roller. So it's not always exactly predictable, but we can see a pattern. Were you able to see patterns in the human pedigrees for PTC tasting and tongue rolling? How about for the plants? Now, if you remember in the plants, we looked at, I have a class set, and we can look at those in class, and you can see that Group A, they're all purple stems. Group B, they're all green stems. And then I have Group C, 2 purple stem and 2 green stems. Now, that follows the pattern where both plant both plants were purple stems, the seed was a purple stem. Where both plants were green stems, the seed of those plants is a green stem. Where the plants were mixed, then we had a mixed outcome of seeds, purple and green. If we looked at more generations, we probably could make a more accurate prediction as far as when it's mixed, but I think that we have a pretty good idea. So if we make predictions in variations of human traits based on grandparents being non-tasting or tasting, and then seeing where the parents are, we can make a prediction about where the next generation will likely be, as whether they have their PTC tasting or not. So where mom or grandma and grandpa are not PTC tasting, we can predict that it would be mixed, but maybe a slightly higher chance of non-tasting PTC children. Where the grandparents are mixed, but the parents are both PTC tasters, we can make a prediction that there is more likely to be a PTC taster child. And then where grandparents are both PTC tasters and the parents are mixed, we could probably predict that they will be mixed, but maybe slightly higher chance of a PTC taster child. All right, now let's look at pedigrees for plant data. Seed packet A. If you were in group A, you had a purple stem plant in your generation. F1, that's the one we planted. The parents were both purple stem plants. If we were to raise that plant to adulthood, we could predict that this F2 generation, the next plant, would also be a purple stem. If you were from packet B, your seeds came from parent generation where both plants were green stemmed or they were non-purple. Your plant and turned out to be non-purple. And then we could predict that the next generation of plant, if we raise that to adulthood, would also be a green stem plant or non-purple. For packet C, this is where we have a mixed seed. The seed's parents are purple and non-purple. The generation that we grew, let's say it's purple. It could be either or. The generation that passes on could also be purple or non-purple, being green. So that's how we can identify patterns in heredity using data from our plants and from human pedigrees. So now that we've talked about that, we're going to go ahead and get started on activity 4.1. Your job is to fill this out, and we did this together in class. So if you did not do this in class, then you'll have to do this right now. We will analyze data in a pedigree to see which traits get passed on from one generation to the next. Procedure number 1. Look carefully at each of the following pedigrees and see if you can find the patterns that answer the questions on the data table. Answer yes or no in the correct column for each pattern. Repeat this for each of the family pedigrees. After you have filled in the table for each of the pedigrees, analyze your data. What we're going to do is we're going to go down past the pedigrees, look at our data table, and when you look at each of these pattern descriptions, you're going to go ahead and look at families 1, 2, and 3, and you're just going to list right here whether you see that pattern in that family. So first of all, the first pattern, can offspring get instructions for the variation of a trait from either parent? If you look at both uh, parent combinations and siblings or offspring, you should be able to find families where both can offspring get instructions of the variation of a trait from either parent. In this case, we have all three siblings get the same trait as both parents. So that's not really what we are. It's not gonna confirm that that can happen. But the other parents and their offspring in this family do. We have a child, the youngest generation, that gets its PTC tasting trait from its mother, and then another PTC tasting child gets their PTC from their father. So it can come from either parent in family 1. The same is true for this family in family 2. The uh, the son gets it from the father, and then in this case, the daughter gets it from the father, and in this family's case, the son gets it from the mother. So it can come from either side of the family in family 2. And then in family 3, we have a mixed family here where daughter gets it from father. Here's a mixed family where 3 siblings, 2 have the PTC trait and 1 does not. So that right there confirms that it can come from either parent. So we're going to put down here where it says data, we're going to write families 1, 2, and 3. All 3 families have that. Next, pattern. Do all offspring from the same parents inherit identical variations of a trait? In order to find this, we need to find where there are siblings that are identical, that all have the same trait. So we need to find siblings where they have the same trait. Family 1. Here's a set of siblings. Well, actually, these 3 are the siblings. They are identical. So family 1, that is true. And then we don't have any other groups of siblings to look at in family 1. Family 2, we have a set of siblings that are identical in the trait, in the variation. And that is again the only set of siblings. So it's also true in family 2. And in family 3, we have a set of siblings. 2 have it and 1 doesn't. So it's not true in this set of siblings. And then we have another set of siblings that it's also not true. So it's not true in family 3. So we're going to put here only family 1 and 2. All right, next pattern. Can offspring, brothers and sisters, sometimes show a variation of a trait that neither parent shows? So we're looking at neither parent shows. So we're looking for combinations where the parents are both identical, but their offspring are different. Let's go back to family 1. Here's a identical family. Parents, mom and dad, are both PTC tasters, and all 3 children have the same trait. So that would not confirm that pattern. Neither would this family where a mom and dad and the child all have the same trait. Family 2. These parents are identical and their children are all identical, so that does not confirm that. And then finally family 3. Here we have a set of parents here, and we see one of the children is a non-PTC taster, even though mom and dad are. And we have another set of parents here where the child is not a PTC taster, but the parents are. So this would be family 3 only. And that kind of goes along with our do now today. How can that be possible? Well, we know that people can carry traits or variations without having them displayed. Next pattern, if parents have different variations of a trait, does it seem that one is more likely to be passed on? Combinations where this is true. All right, so if parents have different variations, does it seem more likely that one is passed on? And all we can do is just take a look where parents don't have it or are not matching, and they tend to have, so far 2 out of 2 of those children are PTC tasters. Here's another one, another family where that's 3 out of 3, 4 out of 3, and we have 4 out of 5. So finally, we have one that is not a PTC taster. 4 out of 5. Then we have 5 out of 6, and then we have 6, 7 out of 9, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 11, and 8 out of 11 is the total combination. So it seems like there's a higher likelihood that the variation of being a PTC taster is more likely to be passed on. So that would be all for the data and observations that we have here. Next for you is to answer the making sense questions. So read these questions carefully and then write incomplete sentences, answers for those, and then turn that in. That'll be due on Friday. And that is all we have for today. Thank you for watching this video. And if you have any more questions, please let me know.